Do you ever feel completely certain about something, only to discover you were missing the bigger picture? That moment when the ground shifts beneath your feet and you realize you weren't seeing things as they truly are. It's unsettling, isn't it? Now imagine living in that space all the time, seeing beyond the illusions most people take for granted. That's the life of a deep thinker, according to the 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. And here's the painful twist. Society doesn't just ignore these people. It often rejects them. Why? Because the truth, as Schopenhauer saw it, is uncomfortable. Most of us would rather cling to familiar lies than face the unsettling depths of reality. Schopenhauer put it bluntly: all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, that inner resistance when someone challenges your beliefs. It's not just you, it's how our minds work. We're wired to protect our worldview, to defend what we think we know. But deep thinkers, they poke holes in those defenses. They see the cracks in the stories we tell ourselves, and that's why they're so often met with resistance. Think back to when you were a kid. Remember the first time you realized Santa Claus wasn't real? That moment of disillusionment. It wasn't just about a man in a red suit. It was the first time you understood that things aren't always what they seem. For most of us, that feeling fades as we grow up. We replace old myths with new ones, comforting illusions about success, love, or morality. But deep thinkers don't stop questioning. They keep pulling at the threads, and that makes people uneasy. Here's the thing: society runs on shared beliefs. Whether it's the idea that hard work always leads to success, or the notion that everyone's opinion is equally valuable, these unspoken rules keep the world predictable. But Schopenhauer saw through that. He understood that most of what we call common sense is just a collective agreement to avoid harder truths. And when someone refuses to play along, when they point out that the emperor has no clothes, they disrupt the illusion. That's why they're pushed to the margins. You felt this tension before, even if you didn't realize it. Ever been in a conversation where you knew something was off, but everyone else seemed convinced? Maybe you bit your tongue because it wasn't worth the argument. That's the instinct Schopenhauer talked about, the pull to conform, to avoid rocking the boat. Deep thinkers don't have that filter. They say what they see, and that honesty comes at a cost. It's not that society is evil or deliberately cruel. It's just that most people operate on autopilot, following instincts and habits without questioning them. Schopenhauer called this the will, the blind, driving force behind human behavior. We want comfort, safety, and validation, and will reject anything that threatens those needs. Deep thinkers threaten them by default. They don't offer easy answers or reassuring platitudes. They force us to confront things we'd rather ignore. And here's where it gets personal. We all like to think of ourselves as open-minded, but the truth is, we're all a little resistant to change. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they give us a sense of control. Schopenhauer knew this. He saw that the mind is like a fortress, defending itself against anything that might shake its foundations. That's why the most original ideas are often met with laughter or anger before they're finally accepted. So, what does this mean for you? If you've ever felt out of step with the world, like your thoughts were too much or too different, Schopenhauer would say you're not alone. In fact, you might be seeing more clearly than the people around you. But that clarity comes with a price. The deeper you go, the fewer people will follow. That's the paradox of truth. It sets you free, but it also isolates you. This cracks open a reality many of us feel but rarely discuss. The way deep thinkers often find themselves on the outskirts of acceptance. It's not that they're intentionally pushed away, but their way of seeing the world doesn't always align with the quick, surface-level reactions society rewards. To understand why this happens, we need to follow the natural three-phase journey every deep thinker goes through, whether they realize it or not. We all start in the same place, seeing things simply. Life feels straightforward, and the rules seem clear. People smile when they're happy, frown when they're upset, and the path to fitting in appears well marked. At this stage, we trust the obvious. If someone says something, we take it at face value. If a problem arises, we reach for the nearest solution. It's comfortable here. There's no need to dig deeper because the surface provides all the answers we think we need. You might be someone who resists change at first, preferring the safety of what's familiar. Most of us do. But then comes the confusing middle. This is where things get complicated. We start noticing cracks in the simplicity we once relied on. Maybe it's a conversation where someone's words don't match their actions, or a situation where the easy answer feels wrong. Suddenly, the world isn't as clear-cut as it seemed. This is the phase Arthur Schopenhauer described as the inevitable friction of deeper thinking. He believed that truth often lies buried under layers of habit and convenience, and uncovering it requires wrestling with discomfort. Most of us feel uneasy during transitions like this. It's tempting to retreat, to force ourselves back into the simplicity of before. But deep thinkers can't unsee what they've noticed. They're stuck in the messy middle, where every assumption feels shaky. This is where the contrast Schopenhauer highlighted becomes glaring. On one side, there are knee-jerk reactions, quick, emotional, and often driven by the crowd. On the other, there are thoughtful responses, slower, more deliberate, and often solitary. Society rewards the first because it's efficient. It keeps things moving. But deep thinkers lean toward the second, and that's where the rejection creeps in. When everyone else is nodding along, the deep thinker is the one asking, "But why?" And that question, as innocent as it seems, can feel like a threat to those who just want to keep things simple. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately. That pause is the beginning of the third phase, the new clarity. It's not that the world becomes simple again, but the complexity starts to make sense. Deep thinkers begin to see patterns beneath the chaos. They understand that the quick reactions society favors are often just band-aids on deeper issues. And while this clarity is empowering, it's also isolating. It's hard to join in when you see the strings behind the curtain. We start noticing how often people prefer comfort over truth, how a catchy slogan can rally a crowd faster than a nuanced discussion, how silence is mistaken for agreement, and questions are mistaken for defiance. This isn't about intelligence or superiority. It's about a different way of processing the world. And that difference is what leads to rejection. Society moves at a certain pace, and those who stop to think inevitably fall out of step. But here's the thing, that rejection isn't the end. It's part of the journey. Schopenhauer knew this better than anyone. He wrote about the struggle of being misunderstood, of seeing more than others could. Yet he also recognized that this very struggle is what sharpens the mind. The tough middle phase, as disorienting as it is, serves a purpose. It weeds out the shallow and strengthens the deep. Through this discomfort, we begin to see the cracks in what we once thought was solid ground. It's unsettling, like realizing the map you've been following is missing whole sections. But here's the thing. Those cracks let in light. They show us where we've been clinging to ideas that don't quite fit, where we've been forcing ourselves into shapes that were never meant for us. And while that realization might feel like a loss at first, it's also the start of something new. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier once you stop trying to force them into old frameworks. The mental energy we waste on shoulds and supposed tos starts freeing up, and suddenly choices feel less like battles and more like natural next steps. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much, not because the problems have vanished, but because the weight we gave them has shifted. It's like setting down a bag you didn't realize you were carrying. This isn't about sudden enlightenment or flipping a switch. It's slower, gentler, more like adjusting to a new rhythm. At first, it might feel awkward, like dancing to a song you don't quite know yet. But with time, the steps start to make sense. You begin to trust the movement, even when you can't see the whole path. And that's where the magic happens. The moments that used to trip you up become places to pause, not panic. Together, we discover that growth isn't about becoming someone entirely new. It's about uncovering what was already there, beneath the layers of expectation and habit. It's peeling back the assumptions we mistook for truth and finding our own way forward. And the more we do this, the more natural it feels. The world doesn't change, but our way of moving through it does. There's a quiet joy in this. It's the relief of no longer fighting yourself, of no longer trying to fit into molds that were never yours. Arthur Schopenhauer captured it perfectly when he described freedom like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit. That first breath of air, the uncurling of toes, the sudden lightness, it's not just physical. It's the same feeling when we stop forcing ourselves into ideas that pinch and constrain. And that's where we land, not at some grand finish line, but in a softer, more spacious place. A place where we can breathe, where the old weights don't hold us down like they used to, where the path ahead isn't about proving anything, but about walking in a way that feels right. Finally, fully ours. This journey isn't solitary, even when it feels that way. We're all figuring it out, step by step, in our own time. And somehow, that's enough. More than enough. It's everything